And what is your background? Where are you?
I'm I'm from Hyderabad, um, in Andhra. It used to be
Uh-huh.
part of the bigger Andhra, but now there is two states. And my parents, they found out about Baba just about the time that my mom was pregnant with me. So they found out about somebody that was in the same region, and they were Baba lovers, the friends, and they suggested that my name should be named after Baba,
So
and
great.
my parents named me after Baba, and that this was in '67. So um, Baba dropped his body after 2 years after,
Yeah.
and um, so my dad actually went to Baba's internment, but
Mm.
he didn't take his family with him. He just went by himself because he just found out about Baba a couple of years earlier. And then after he went there, he there was a lot of turmoil going on during that time with the state politics and all that. There was a lot of strikes and so on about a separate state and so on. So he was not sure whether he can take his family, so he went by himself. But after going there, he wanted his family to be brought also. So he told his brother to bring my mom and myself and my older brother to Mehrabad. So his brother took myself, my mom and my older brother to Mehrabad. And my mom tells me that I was crying while I was on the hill to put a flower on Baba's feet, and they had to take me down into the tomb to place a flower on his feet. So I assume that I may have touched his feet. I don't know.
Hmm.
So,
It's a
yeah.
great story, even if you made it up.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Do you want to share
Yeah,
something?
I am actually a born Baba lover. My
Oh,
father was a Baba lover since 1968.
Wow, you both came
wow.
from Baba families, both born into it.
Yeah, actually, we are both from Hyderabad.
Huh.
Uh,
Did you know each other before here?
I mean, I didn't see him, but we know his father. My father and his father were very close. I mean,
Wow.
in Hyderabad, both used to give lectures on Baba on every program. So it
Mhm.
was like his father and my father. There used to be a series. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I came to know Meher Prasad after joining these Zoom meetings that he is the same person.
Yeah. Same
I,
here. Same here.
What brought you to? You're in Connecticut and you're
yeah.
in Seattle.
Seattle.
What got you to America?
It's job. I mean, I'm into IT. So I came here in 2015.
Yeah. Same here. I came a long
Earlier.
time back. I came in 1990
Hmm.
um, for doing my masters, and then I did my masters in Texas A&M. Then
In
came to
Texas.
Seattle and
Yeah.
started working for Microsoft since 98. So it's about 23 years since I've been at Microsoft. So,
Show some stability, man.
And did you
but
meet?
I even though I was born into Baba family, I was not really. Um, I didn't have that internal connection with Baba until much later. I would go to all Baba meetings and Baba Sabas, where Adi Kirani would give speeches. I would hang out around the place where he would give speech and all that. So I never questioned his godhood. It was like I knew that he was the avatar. I took him to be the avatar as naturally as I took my parents to be my parents.
Hmm.
But I didn't, I put him on a pedestal, like as somebody who is God that stays somewhere apart from me. So he was more like someone to be worshipped and things like that.
Hmm.
But in 1993, when I was about 26, my grandfather passed away, and that was the first death I saw after after being mature. So that kind of shook me up, and I was unknowingly, I basically was looking for meaning of life at that point, although I didn't know I was doing that.
Mhm.
And 93 December, we went to Mehrabad with my parents. And every December, Mani would do these little slips of paper that she would hand out to whoever came to Mehrabad during Christmas time, along with some candy as prasad. So she was doing that, and she gave this little piece of um, paper, a slip, a pink slip that had Baba's message in it. And that message was pretty normal if you look at it, but it had such an impact at that time. It said, "I want you to make me yours as you already eternally are mine." And for some reason, that message really brought me close to Baba, and that was the initial connection I had with him.
I got goosebumps.
And that was when you were 26.
Yeah, that was when I was 26, and that was through money. I think Baba used the mandali to create those internal connections, and she was my internal connection to him through that slip. That slip of paper, I kept that for a long, long, long time in my wallet, and until the time that it basically tore
Right.
completely.
You
But I
remember?
kept it for 20 years or so. But I remembered that message because it's somehow that message really hit home for me. That I was keeping him at a distance on a pedestal all those years, 25 years or so, and then when I saw that message, I think that just evoked that internal thing.
You went inside.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
There's a common theme among those who grow up with Baba that you still have to come to Baba, that you still have to have your own
Yeah.
epiphany or heart awakening. I mean, it's one of those things that despite everything, we still come to Baba or to God one by one, right? Single file is the...
Yeah, absolutely. We have to find our own path to him. It's not through parents. It's not through, it's not, even if you're born into the same family, you have to find your own path to him. It's not.
Absolutely.
And vice versa. Sometimes you're planted so far away, but you still find Baba.
Yeah. Erwin Luck is a great example. If you haven't heard his story, it's an amazing story.
Sorry?
Erwin Luck.
Oh, we
Erwin.
have, yeah.
Do you know his story? I know we met him when we were in Myrtle
Yeah,
Beach.
and we have
Yeah.
his movie,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. and we spent an evening in Myrtle Beach, and I don't know, I just connected with him, so we enjoyed each other that evening. It was really nice.
What do you think about when you think of his story, though?
It's fascinating because, his dad was so much against him and Baba, and he still found his way to Baba. So
With a
it doesn't
brother,
matter
too,
whether
right?
you're
A brother too.
Yeah, he had a brother, right?
yeah
They were both there,
yeah
taking footage and doing
Right.
crazy things. Like they were very adventurous and young. And
When you were talking about the right time for you and Baba, I was thinking that, sometimes I listen to people my age on here who have had so many years with Baba, and I came to him 8 years ago, even though Angela will tell you that he's always been there. And I agree now, but I didn't know it. And, I remember that, as a lesbian, everything was feminist and and it's so interesting because my daughter has been reading up on Baba, and she's also a radical feminist lesbian. And she says, everything is he. And I said, well, that was the time he was in. He couldn't start saying they, they then. It wasn't happening then, You kind of have to. And so I explained how all the women are buried, around him, and how all the people around him were gay and straight in every class and color, and everyone was taken in. And that's what is so wonderful to me. And I said, the best part is when you die, you drop your body, you don't really die. And that's really helped me for people who in my life are not longer there physically. So, We'll see. It's interesting. It's the closest that she's gotten to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's even a bigger comfort in my mind that it's not only, reincarnation, yeah, a few lives. No, we're talking about millions.
Forever.
Millions of lives. That puts things into perspective. In Buddhism, you talk about, like, what would this look like in 300 years from now? Well, Baba's like, how about 300 lives from now? What do you think,
I wanted to offer Jai Baba, everybody.
Okay.
Yesterday, yeah, nice to see everybody. Yesterday, part of a group of us read God Speaks all day. And we've done it before in person in the Northwest. And we held silence through the day and just heard Baba's words. And there'd be a room separate to eat in if you wanted to drift in and out. But online, I had no idea how it would be, And we just had specific readers for 15 minutes a time. And you rotated through the readers. And it went really smoothly. But at the end of the day, I was filled up in my heart and emptied in my mind, which is interesting because I don't know who here has read God Speaks very many times. I've attempted it several times, and yeah, really. And I think I've read it at least, I'm in the seventh time kind of, I think. And when you were talking, Terry, about your daughter and reading and the words and stuff, and this came to my mind just now. The avatar is always in a male form because I had to read that yesterday.
I read that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so many things came, I mean, from the very first time I read it, when I was like probably 19 or 20, and then, 50 some years later, then so much more pops in and then settles, and the resonance is clearer. And one thing that with Effort and Grace and Darwin that finally has come home to me through this review of God Speaks yesterday was the two parts of the mind, and how the mind, Jeff is always talking, or got from Darwin, that it really isn't the brain part of us mind, but then the two parts of the mind. I missed that in God Speaks all this time, until it was laid out in God Speaks yesterday. I mean, and I've been getting it through Effort and Grace's, three readings.
It's right in there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's right there. And I was like, oh my God.
I know, right? It's like a revelation because we don't somehow
No.
see that. Yeah, it's right there.
I know.
Yeah, and it's yeah. Anyway, I was just real fired up about it, and it was so wonderful. And I slept just in the beyond yesterday, which I haven't been sleeping well, and it was so nice to just go merge after a day of reading his words. It was really good.
I'll share an anecdote that made me read God Speaks 3 times. This was just in last 1 year, one and a half year. So I've been having this. The first time I read God Speaks was when I was 13. And then I didn't read it after that. And the past 2 years, I've been getting this inner push from Baba to read God Speaks 3 times. And I've been, the first experience was so bad for me, when I was 13, that I didn't want to go near it. But so I kept on ignoring what he was telling me from inside to read it 3 times as much as possible. So I kept on postponing, thinking, no, it's okay, kind of ignoring it. So one time it was bothering me, but I was kind of ignoring, thinking, oh, it may be just my thinking and not really Baba pushing me and things like that. I was justifying myself. So I took my son to this chess game one day. It was in Seattle in a school. And it was a 8 to 5 event, so there was plenty of time in between for me to go out and get a coffee or something. So I dropped him at this chess game and went nearby to a Starbucks. and I parked my car in front of the Starbucks, and I got down, closed the door, and I looked around like this, and there was a church there. And on the church was this huge banner, and the banner said 2 words, God speaks. And then, that was basically the final straw that basically, that's when I started reading it 3 times and back to back. Anyway, it was a small.
Great story.
When Baba wants you to do something, he will find a way to give that.
No, it's amazing when I mean, for obviously for you and for me and several people here that I can see their lives with Baba in this lifetime. I mean, it's the constant presence and the constant pushes, and sometimes so humorously how we're invited. I mean, he knows us so well, he'll go through whatever medium it takes to get our attention, which is great. Very fabulous.
Aren't we so spoiled?
Huh?
Aren't we so spoiled? We are aware that Baba's come to get us. Like, how special does that make us?
Oh.
Of course, everybody's special,
Yeah.
but we're actually aware of how special we are. So sweet. Baba's laid out his breadcrumbs and his net. I suppose we could do a moment of silence while Jeff is trying to figure out his audio. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So anyway, this next section we're coming to is changing values. And what Darwin is talking about there is sublimating the lower values, the selfish love, into higher and higher forms of love that are more selfless, eventually to universal love, until we are face to face with Baba's love itself. And to give like an analogy, this way I think of it, is if you imagine that Baba's love as the sun, and it is shining down into the heart, but at the top of at the deepest level of our heart, or the highest level of our heart, it's like there's a prism, and the sunlight goes through that prism and is refracted into a rainbow of colors. And each of those colors, you might say, are the divine qualities of patience, generosity, kindness, humor, all of the good qualities we know. However, it's shining down on our heart, which is full of lifetimes of sun scars. So there's a huge cloud cover that Baba's sun is trying to penetrate with these qualities into us. And if you take it, before our life with Baba, before there was any awakening at all to the spiritual life, it's like being in a dense fog, and we're kind of wandering around in the lower part of the heart in a dense fog where we can hardly see much beyond ourselves. And at that level, we are, we're just trying to survive, and we hardly see anybody except, in the shadows, and but eventually Baba's love, that sun comes and it melts away the fog, and we find ourselves in a much more expansive realm in the heart. We can actually see there's some other people here. And, we're still in a world of I, my, me, and mine. This is my property. This is my job. This is my family. That's your family. That's your job. That's your property. But what happens eventually is some of these clouds of sun scars open up a little bit, and some of these shafts of sunlight come down. And suddenly we find ourselves in a moment generous, or we find ourselves exercising some patience where there hadn't been much before. And then we also see in others, someone is, very compassionate in us. And so we begin to see the beauty of these divine qualities, and we're more attracted to them. And so anyway, we we are more and more drawn to the divine qualities, and the skies start to open up. More of them come in until eventually we see the son of Baba's love. And that's what we, at least I think most of it, saw in the mandali. You know, the sun with very few clouds. And that's the beautiful thing. And, you know, the sun, of course, is always there. I mean, on a cloudy day, we say the sun isn't out, but it's always there. Baba's grace is always trying to get to us. And Erich used to say, a number of times I'd hear him say that spiritual progress is very, 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 very gradual. 4 varies, meaning that it's a very slow process. So don't get discouraged if it seems to take a long time to get from selfish love to that universal love or Baba's love. Anyway, that's what we're coming into in the next few sections, transmuting the lower values into higher values. So anyway, so Angela is going to choose anybody who feels like reading, or, you know, and you can pass. And I'm sorry that my computer is so messed up.
Well, you're doing fine now.
Yeah, everything is so dark, but I don't know why. Anyway.
Anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I have us down for page 37, the last section of chapter 6.
Sanskaric potholes. It is a delicate undertaking to gain control of one's thoughts and feelings without any coercion at all. Effort, yes, but not coercion. It becomes a matter of seeing through the sanskaric complexes, which are based on erroneous knowledge, beliefs, and limitations, and being resourceful enough to take evasive action. All this is in relation to one's own specific sanskaras. It's like going for a walk on a known route. We come to know the wet, the slippery areas, the potholes, and where the route leads. The first few times we might make a mistake and fall into a pothole, but we soon get enough sense to walk on the other side of the road or choose a different place to step. When we have learned from experience where our sanskaras lead, we come to know that we have to redirect them early. After a while, we can see the beginning of the sanskar pressures and start to counteract them at their earliest manifestation. It's like a railroad worker observing a train peacefully chugging along. Suddenly, he notices a rogue train barreling down the same track from the opposite direction. He quickly throws a switch in order to divert the rogue train to the side track. Then he smiles at the first train, now out of danger, whizzes by. The first train represents truth. The rogue train represents ignorance due to our sanskaras. We can learn to take subliminal evasive action to switch our train of thoughts and feelings at the first sign of impending trouble. We have to learn how to maneuver the mind so that we have more control. Not willful repression, but a redirection of our energy so that we can experience more inner freedom. Eventually, the thought of patterns are no longer able to control us. Instead, they come under our control. This is not blind control, because it is backed by understanding and subservient to the truth itself. Gradually, we become aware that everything really is illusion, and we become a channel of love, a river of love, an ocean of love. Jiva. Well, I'm going to just comment on this because I still see the rogue train coming. And sometimes I'm helpless to switch the track. And at other times there's success and I can be subservient to truth, if you will. And the thing I'd say about this is there's frustration, there's guilt, but directly in that, I know that Baba knows me so well, and forgiveness is instantaneous. And I really believe I don't know if I can try harder or if I just hope that the next time when I haven't been able to stop the road train, that I can, but it's interesting to watch all of this happen now, because before there was a lot of words and a lot of stories I track in my mind, a lot of guilt that really brought me down. And as I read this today, I realize that his presence and his support is always underlying everything that happens with me right now. So I don't know if I'm saying that if it's coming out the way I'm feeling it, but it's it's so easy to think we can do all this. And then I recognize that I'm not the one doing it, but hopefully the effort will be greater and with ease, with his grace. So, Jai Baba.
No, Patty, you laid that out very graphically and clearly.
Yeah.
And we'll see what other people have to say here, and we'll respond to that.
I was struck this time with the end where Darwin says, eventually the thought patterns are no longer able to control us. Instead, they come under our control. This is not blind control because it is backed by understanding and subservience to the truth itself. And I love that, because the word control has all sorts of pejorative connotations to me, like control. But blind control could have me with fearful control or forceful control or whatever it might be to that. But it's understanding, backed by understanding, which is what's necessary for true love. It's born of strength and understanding, and subservience to the truth. It's like when the ego is entirely subservient to the master. And something just lightened for me in that whatever kind of control the truth of control is not the forceful thing that's gotten to me in so much trouble in the past, controlling. Which leads me then to the very beginning of the reading, that it is a delicate undertaking to gain control of one's thoughts and feelings without any coercion at all. Effort, yes, but not coercion. So this all says to me it's a very natural process. And it's not something that I need to be worried about or force. And just the effort of continually attending and the longing, it's going to come. So the beginning and the end just lightened everything up for me. So thank you, Abdul. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Yeah, that clarifies it even more, the situation.
I was thinking about how Darwin uses the word truth in this book. And it's tempting to read this book without thinking about this very important thing, how he is using that word truth. And I was thinking about that this week, and it was kind of like a Baba's inspiration. I think the truth that Darwin is referring to in this book is the truth of our being. Who we are, who we really are, what is our spiritual significance. In the first paragraph, Darwin says, and this is another interesting thing, the second sentence, it becomes a matter of seeing through the sanskaric complexes. A lot of times I've noticed people don't think much about what sanskaras really are. Can we really define them? He defines them. He says they're based on erroneous knowledge, beliefs, and limitations. So when I combine that with the truth of my being that Darwin wants me to achieve, and when I think about the fact that my sanskaric complexes are mostly based on erroneous knowledge, beliefs, and limitations, I've come to the conclusion that what he's telling me is that if I change my thinking, I will change my life. When I realize that I am a spiritual being expressing Meher Baba on this planet in everything I do and say, and if I remind myself of that continuously, my life will change automatically with very little effort. Jai Baba.
Beautiful, beautiful, Larry. Well, beautifully said.
So for me, this writing brings up the two things that are kind of necessary headlights for me, and that is willingness and intention. And through different practices, one of them being the 12-step program, I learned to be self-reflective, to at least daily reflect on what my life is looking like. And that shines the light on the illusions and the false impressions. And since I've come to be in connection and more in love with Baba, now it's of course the form of asking for guidance, asking for help. And it seems to me that with willingness, which is behind the asking, with longing, the light just shines, and I see what I want to give up, what I want to release. Of course, I want this goal. I want to become a channel of love, a river of love, an ocean of love. And so somehow, what I can't do on my own, Baba helps me to do, which is to get out of the way of that train of thought. I come up with the willingness, and Baba provides kind of the headlight that shows me to take that train out of the way. So just willingness and intention, and asking for help and falling in love. Thank you.
Beautiful. Lovely, Betty. How can he resist?
And Laurice?
Hi, everyone. Jai Baba.
Yeah.
This is a little challenging on one level for me, because it's talking about control, and particularly because I'm from a sanskaric family. My family, there's multi-generational addiction on both sides. And so not only genetically, but then, of course, erroneous beliefs and actions brought about my own panoply, I would say, of several addictions. And one of the challenge with something when we're addicted to it is there is the thought of control, but there's really no control. And then also my understanding of sanskaras also is, it's karma too. It's both, it's not only just beliefs, but it's also actions and things that happen in past lifetimes and etc. So for me, the first thing I thought of when I was listening to this, I was like, well, Darwin is totally immersed in Baba. Okay. And for me, the only, what I loved is it's not blind control because it's backed by understanding and subservience to truth itself. And I would say that's Baba, subservience to Baba, because my understanding for me is that I can't get through whatever thought process I want, I can't get rid of my sanskaras. Whatever illusion of control I have, or changing my belief system. Well, there's work on changing belief systems, but I really have to have Baba or a higher, I have to have something greater than me to release me at least from addictions. And for me, it's Baba, it's God, Baba. And then things just drop away, when Baba wants things to drop away. And then I'm available to do Baba's will, and I'm available to that river of love flowing through me. But control is a very tricky word for any addict because their mind will tell them they're in control. So so I'm just, I'm playing with the semantics here, but I really feel like even I don't have any illusion that I can get rid of any of my sanskaras or avoid the potholes of my own stuff without Baba's help. Like thinking I can just avoid that pothole or the character defect or my stuff, I can't do it without Baba. So for me, it's repeated, it's daily asking Baba for help on these things that are persistent aspects of myself, and then working with them when stuff comes up, taking that to Baba also. And Baba will continue to show me what needs to be worked with. But so I just wanted to put that in for myself. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Larissa. Yeah. All in the same territory here.
Chapter 7, Changing Our Values. If we take even one step, and we all know one step we could be taking right now, we begin to experience a little light and a little more of reality. After we take 2 or 3 steps, and then more steps, we see more and more light, and we begin to realize that we begin to realize that we have been in a dream all along. Darwin Shaw. It takes a lot of deep inner working to weed out desires, give up our misconceptions, and overcome our false sense of limitation. To ferret these things out and boldly and daringly kick them out of our consciousness. However, it is not that we let go of all these impediments and get nothing in return. There is no permanent void created when we let go. Rather, a process of exchange takes place, or should take place. Meher Baba speaks throughout the discourses and elsewhere about letting go of the limitations of our ego life in favor of the Master's unlimitedness. It is not that we merely let go of the limitations, but that we receive and fully accept the unlimitedness of truth. Therefore, we find that it is not a feeling of loss that we experience, but a sense of gaining some measure of inner freedom and fulfillment. Meher Baba is willing, even eager, to share his unlimited life with us. When we were with him physically, this was one of the most glorious things that we experienced, sharing in his infinite beauty and sweetness and indescribable freedom.
You know, that reminds me of back in the early 70s when I was living up there near Darwin, and there were a couple of, this buddy of mine and I, and we were trying to, live a life trying to overcome our indulgences and weaknesses and hang-ups and everything. We were trying to do it all at once. And at one point we were there at a meeting at the Shaws, and we told them that, doing all of this kind of work of trying to overcome these things, we were feeling such a void in us. I mean, we were feeling kind of empty by doing this. And Darwin was right there, and he said, if I can just, I don't know if I can, but he said, there's a fullness behind the void. And that, when he said that it opened up such a deep place that I've never doubted that there's a fullness behind it. I mean, he gave the experience, just like when Larry was talking about when Darwin would say the word truth, it wasn't just the word from the dictionary. He gave you in some measure an experience of the truth. That word came from the depths of him. So, like I say, we were that if you feel kind of a void or empty in doing all this of trying to live for Baba, just remember there's a fullness behind this all, Baba's fullness.
And Larry?
Yes, I was gonna, it's good that you said that, Jeff. I was looking at the last sentence of paragraph 1. We've got that word truth again. He says, it is not, and remember I said a good way to interpret this, the way I look at it, is to always interpret that word truth as the truth of being. So look at that last sentence. It is not, Darwin says, it is not that we merely let go of the limitations, but that we receive and fully accept the unlimitedness of the truth of our being.
Yeah.
As a minister, I used to do a lot of counseling, and because my congregation was older, there was a lot of sickness. And it was such a joy to me to have people come to my office and they would mention their physical problems. And every appointment, the way I was trained in the church that I worked with, the denomination, was always to remind people of their divinity. If I could get people to grasp their divinity, their initial divinity, that wonderful closeness that they had with God, that life situations would change. And so I would have somebody with an illness or a pressing need, and that was what I had to do with that person. I had to remind them that they were divine, that what they needed to do was to take the eyes off their problem and to lift them up and to connect with their divinity in the midst of that situation. And so many times people would come back and say, Reverend Larry, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'll give you one little story. I had a woman one time, she came to me all upset because she had a dog grooming business. And this very wealthy woman dropped her poodle off for cleaning and repairing. And the damn dog ran away out of the salon. And they spent the whole day, and the woman was going to pick up the dog the next day. She didn't know what to do. I said, okay, let's do it. We worked on it spiritually. She came back and she said, you'll never believe what happened. I said, what? She said, I went to that salon, prepared to call that woman and face the bad news. The poodle is sitting on the front step of the salon. That's what I've seen when I
Yeah.
am able to remind people that they are expressions of God. And we are so close to Mayor Baba. We just need to realize who we are. The truth of our being is the key to our spirituality. I'm sorry for preaching, but it's Sunday.
No, Larry, that's fantastic.
This is
No,
what I
that's
do for a living. Jai Baba.
that's just as Darwin would say it, really. Trying to just, to emphasize the divinity and not all of our hang-ups, which are innumerable. Amen.
Preach on, brother. And
The last sentence, when we were with him physically, this was one of the most glorious things that we experienced, sharing in his infinite beauty and sweetness and indescribable freedom. My question to you was, did you feel that energy transmission from Darwin? All of that sweetness he received from Baba?
Yeah, you had to actually fight not to get intoxicated. I had to actually not go up into bliss. I forced myself to stay on the earth when I was with him, so as not to, so as not to kind of get totally uplifted, because that bliss was so total that I never wanted to come off of it. I never wanted to leave it. But I knew that I had to go the next day, especially. I had to go to this nursing home, in the infirmary part of a nursing home, where the energy was very low, and I would just crash land. So I determined I'm not going up ever again. I'll just settle for simple, everyday being happy, and I don't want to go. I don't want any more than that. Truly. I don't know if Hugh, I'm sure sometimes, especially you, Hugh and Bill Cliff, you guys probably had a taste of that as well, right?
Absolutely. I think I would go there and just sort of bliss out, and it would last, well past the time I got home. But Darwin's atmosphere was just so intoxicating.
Yeah, what we would do is after the meeting, without thinking, we would go to this diner and we would all order these like banana splits and everything, not realizing that the whole purpose was to come down.
Well, I just want to say, especially in the early days, the atmosphere was very high in that tiny little living room. And we all used to drink it in, and we didn't go to a diner. Afterwards, we used to go to the International House of Pancakes and indulge, and like we'd be so high, we'd have all these syrups, and we'd be snapping the lids up and down, pretending we were like talking to each other. And I remember when we told Jean that, she looked at us and she said, "Don't you feel you just want to go home and stay absorbed in that atmosphere? Why dissipate it by going to a pancake house when you can just keep it within you and go home?" But it was fun. We were young, and I wouldn't say even foolish back then. We just enjoyed it. Enjoyed every minute of being in that living room. Priceless.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting the bliss right now. I'm getting the contact bliss from all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, just about the matter of not just having this emptiness or void with being cleaned out. I've talked of the incredible grace God gave me when I was a teenager, and there was a long period with him, and he would continually bring up sanskaras in me, my impressions, to be cleaned. And I'd have to face everything the best I could, directly wrestle with it, take responsibility the best I could. And then he would just take them. There'd be this opening. But early on, I had this fear. I said to him, well, if you just take away all this stuff in me, is there nothing left? Just this void. And I came to realize I was identifying with these impressions. That was part of my personality, right? But like Jeff was saying, what actually happened was this expansive, utterly new world of richness, just whole different dimension. So that I ended up looking forward to letting go then, and having him, by grace, remove these things for that time.
Page 39, an exchange process.
An exchange process. Letting go of limitations requires not only paying attention to our thoughts and feelings and the illusory forces we allow ourselves to be swayed by. It also requires examining our values. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, because my picture went off. Okay. That was weird. Anyway, okay, sorry. Let's see. I'm going to start again. Letting go of limitations requires not only paying attention to our thoughts and feelings and the illusory forces we allow ourselves to be swayed by. It also requires examining our values, especially at subjective levels, and exchanging relative or false values for more real values. We are working toward truth from a position of ignorance and falsehood, so it becomes a matter of a gradual exchange, exchanging one little aspect of falsehood for some aspect of truth. At each step along the way, the play of imagination lessens. We exchange something that is grossly ignorant for something that is less ignorant, less gross, and a little more real. And sometimes, with Baba's grace, we may even catch glimpses of reality itself. We have to go through this process because our values are mixed up with our desires. And the desires create a sort of delusive coloring over our values, which distorts them. In other words, we have a tendency to try to add truth to our desire nature, thus preserving our false self. So we have to sort out the truth, or real values, from the distorted values of the desire nature. The desires, of course, have to be outgrown or cast aside, but not repressed. In lieu of repression of desires, we can make good use of their energy by transforming and sublimating it into longing for God, longing for reality. For the aspirant, this is a natural and most desirable way of proceeding, sublimating energies from desires that are seen to lead only into illusion and bondage, the bondage of the soul. Thus, little by little, our mental consciousness undergoes a change. This is the gradual reconstitution process that Meher Baba refers to in the discourses. Since, as Baba says, all finiteness and limitation is subjective and self-created, it is in our own hands to work at subjective levels, especially the heart level, to correct what is false and replace it with the real.
Darwin was especially big on sublimation, sublimating greed into generosity, anger into patience and tolerance, lust into purity, that whole slow sublimation of the lower in favor of the higher.
I think that I experienced one of the most powerful experiences I've had of this sublimation of desires was about almost exactly 10 years ago. My grandmother dropped her body and I was very close to her. And I mean, grieved for quite a while afterwards. And at one point, I remember sitting in the carpool lane waiting to pick up my third child from school. And I just missed her so much. And then I did something that I call spiritual bait and switch, where what if instead of feeling that I want my grandmother or talk to her, that I want God, or I want my higher self or truth. And the feeling that happened when I transformed that, I think that's that transforming and sublimating from the finite person that I couldn't keep, she's not going to come back in that way. Through that, I had what I call knowing, like after the experiences of the waves of grief and then letting them rise and letting that not be so much about the person. Whenever you can get to that point to let go of the personality, make it about God. I think like on the other side of grief is God. And in my work as a healer, like one of the things that I'm very reverent of is the power of grief when we go through it, like the spiritual awakening that we can have to just know we're infinite. And I learned a lot about that transferring process, that spiritual bait and switch, as I like to call it. So I want to share that. Thank
Excellent. You. Yeah. And if you never experience grief, how will you know how most everybody on the earth, what they experience sometime or other, Baba gives it to us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Cindy brought that up. We were reading about the train, and last summer the train hit me. And I've been kind of under that train ever since when my son died. And it's sometimes I remember, I remember that there was a woman who came to Baba and her daughter had died, and she just really, really, she begged him to bring her daughter back. And Baba said, finally, he said, okay, I'll do that. She says, oh, you will? She'll be just like she was in her body and everything. And Baba said, sure. And so that went on and on. And he said, but whenever you think of your daughter, think of me. So this went on for years. And she would come back to Baba and she would say, so soon you'll bring my daughter back to me soon? And he would say, soon. Yeah, sure. So finally, he said, she went to Baba and he said, oh, I'm in the mood to give you whatever you want. And she said, I want you, Baba. So it's hard. What's for me, it's been an up and down, a roller coaster ride, and trying to remember the truth, all the truth. And it's like sometimes I think, but Baba, show me. And it's like he says, I did. Pay attention. So it's a difficult ride. That's all. And it's sometimes I'm under the train, and sometimes I can figure my way out of that. But he is the way out. So anyway, yeah. So that's that.
Yeah, you know who that woman was? And the Mandali were kind of like shocked. Baba, what are you actually going to bring this woman's daughter back? That was the Maharani of Baroda, the woman who gave Baba the use of Guru Prasad. And a beautiful, beautiful story.
Very beautiful. And Elizabeth.
Yes, somebody put in the chat, I wanted to know about the head and the heart in God Speaks. And I had actually mentioned it to some people in the last couple of days. So I looked it up, part of it. So the mind being, it's not really head and heart the way it's written here, but I have seen that someplace. It's on page 51, 5th and 6th planes, in the second edition revised of God Speaks. But then you also have to look at the supplement. And the one that kind of explains the relationship of the 4th plane to miracles and divine powers is on page 226 of God Speaks in the supplement, called Miracles of the Savior, Rasul or Avatar, and Perfect Masters, Sadgurus. And it's kind of complicated to understand until you kind of get it. But anyway, so that's hopefully helpful to someone.
Yeah, and this will come up in the weeks to come, trying to get a little sense of what is the mind and what is the heart. And it's helpful to know those experientially within.
Right. In this, in God Speaks, he's actually talking the mental world having two domains, domain of the fifth plane or of thoughts and the domain of the sixth plane of feelings. But when he's talking about the fourth plane, he talks about energy, and the place to command the greatest amount of energy, which is the source of the divine powers, is in the fourth plane.
Yeah.
That's in God Speaks.
Yeah.
I didn't make that up.
Yeah. No, we'll get into that at some point. It'll come up because a lot of this is about working the mind and the heart together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so page 39 at the bottom, inner barometer.
Inner barometer. The individual has to determine what makes or fortifies veils over his or her own consciousness. At least we know from Baba's explanations what the goal is, and we can do a great deal toward helping our spiritual unfoldment since we know where we are heading and what we must do and not do in order to make progress. We are conscious of what is going on within us, or we can be. We all have an inner barometer that tells us what darkens or lightens the heart and lifts or dissolves the veils. And we can check the barometer while things are happening within us. If whatever we are doing gives us a feeling of light so that we can see more deeply within and have more spiritual insight, we know we are on the right track. But if our thoughts, words, or deeds make things more cloudy, more obscure and limited, we can see that something is trying to keep us bound to the gross level of consciousness, and that this is not to our advantage spiritually. So it is not a matter of reading books and going by certain exterior morals or formulas, but what we actually experience within our own self, our own consciousness. In other words, we can read our own experiences. We make choices as to what we will think, say, and do, and our insight gained from the good or bad consequences of those choices guides us. We can discover the right course to take all the time. We need to value the insight and inner strength that come to us through clearing away the veils. Mayor Baba says that more inner wisdom will be revealed to us in accordance with our fidelity to the insight we have. In other words, by respecting whatever insight we have and living by it, putting it into practice instead of ignoring it for pleasures or whatever else would preoccupy our consciousness, we will gain more insight. But if we continuously make bad choices, we make it harder for higher insights to be revealed to us. All these things vary with the individual, and we have to experiment with the concepts. Can I say something? I can't believe I just read this because I am struggling so hard. I know that I'm reacting in ways that I don't want to be reacting, and I'm not being very nice based on some things that are happening here. And I just sometimes I feel like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just the way it is. Sometimes I get into thinking it's not about the drama at all. It's all about God. And I should be able to overcome my reactions. And, I make up my mind, I'm just going to go be nice. And then I immediately react the same old way. And it's really discouraging. I mean, I feel like I'm just digging myself in deeper with the sanskaras that I have that I want to overcome. That's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Yeah. No, we've all been there too. You just can't quite get it right. But you are trying day in and day out And I would say Baba has to be very pleased with your persistent efforts.
Yeah. You know, I listened to the Tuesday night, late night chat recently, and the one on the 19th, and it was very potent for me. And I think it pertains to like what you just said, Robin, at least it did for me. And that was, Jeff was talking about, and others. Jeff, you were talking about what Erich said about controlling the mind, and about the recommendation to really put oneself with the feelings and desires of the heart and be with that and know that Baba is right there with us. He isn't separate from that because he's in us. So he is experiencing these same conflicts, fears, confusions, angers, whatever they are, as we are. And that, as much as anything, this bringing the whole concept, I mean, for some reason, it struck me differently than it has in the past. And the whole concept of just really sitting in the heart with the experience of the feelings that we're having and not acting on them, but really being with them and being, so we're not, I know that this whole section, we started out talking about the train and another track and everything, but to me, this felt like another track, to really be wholeheartedly present with our sanskaric garbage as we feel it in our heart, rather than being on the conveyor belt of the mind, always presenting more options. And like you were saying, Robin, feeling one way and then going right into like, oh, feeling then bad about yourself for feeling that way. And that was what I understood Jeff to talk about as the conveyor belt of the mind. And instead, just sitting right with what the heart is experiencing and feeling Baba's presence right there with us, sharing that with us. I don't know if that's helpful or if that explains anything at all, but it certainly was potent for me. So thank you for that, Jeff.
Yeah, beautifully described. I just add is that what I got from Erich, and it's just been invaluable to me, is if you go into how you feel deep down, that is how Baba feels to live in you. He's not in some transcendent place. He is feeling. If you want to know how Baba feels, go in and see how you feel deep down. That's how Baba feels when he lives in you. So there's a great intimacy in that. It's not like I'm feeling all this anger and Baba is somewhere else. You know, he is that anger in me. So it was a great help to me to get that from Erich. You know, you think, oh, well, Baba can't be feeling the kind of anger or the hatred that I'm experiencing. Why not? You know, we think, oh, well, he's above that. No, he isn't. He's in it just like we are. That was what I gathered from Erich.
Yeah, Jeff, that's a wonderful statement to share and how powerful that is. And I'm trying to remember the wording. I'll be paraphrasing that Baba said something like, if I'm remembering right, the only way toward the truth is us being true to our perceptions, the perception of the truth, and continually as we go along, and that'll keep expanding. But the only way is to keep being true to that and honest with ourselves inside. And it brings me just to say something to you, Robin. I think you are really sincere and honest, even in your struggle, and I'm sure that's very pleasing to Baba.
Yeah, hello. This is a refreshing conversation. Thank you. I'm thinking lately that, these waves of negative feelings and reactivity are probably pretty good because in silence, I'm getting messages that perhaps it's a way to fight and keep the consciousness that has been gained a little bit by moving forward, by thinking of Baba, by participating in Effort and Grace. So this is, doing this book with everybody is, it's pretty transformational, whether we're aware of it or not. It really is. And, Darwin keeps saying in these last couple of chapters that we are responsible for doing the work, really. We have to put some effort into this. So I've come to forgive myself for the reactivity because I heard Baba say to me when I was upset with myself and I really blew up. And I internally heard him say, this is good. You fight like hell to keep the identity that you fought hard to gain. And I thought, what the heck does he mean by that? I came to understand through, growing up with a lot of dysfunctions and addictions, just like everybody else here, that a lot of people in our lives like to keep us in the identity they're familiar with. And we have our own struggles accepting our new identities, our new consciousness. It's, it has to be set right, so we have to go through this. And if we, react, we can always apologize or try to make the relationship work. But I think sometimes you got to fight like hell to keep what you gain. It's a good thing. And I feel Baba right there with it. It's just part of the process. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful insight, Heidi. So true.
Yeah. And Robin.
So it's such a mixed bag. I mean, I do feel like sometimes when I speak up in not a very nice way, and it is based on judgments, which I don't like making even, but I've held an awful lot in for 52 years that we've been together. And sometimes I feel like it's just time for me to be honest enough to speak up and say whatever I'm feeling, but then I don't want to be justifying, like negative behavior and acting out on anger. It's just all mixed. But I do, thank God, get to have times, like I've said this before, where I feel like Bob is living through me and he is in me in a very profound way. And like, even so lately I've been, even like when I eat, I think about poor Baba didn't have teeth, and every bite that I take is him getting to enjoy the food that I'm enjoying or helping him enjoy or something. And, I do feel like the progress is that not certainly as much as I'd like, but I do get to spend more time in the present and feeling full of Baba and having his presence, within me, and that feels great. But I feel like it feels very frustrating not to be able to be more loving under the circumstances that I'm in. But there's not, it's so crazy. It's not even, it can't even be received, but that's not the point. So anyway, I really appreciate all of your comments always. I know there's progress being made. I feel like he ups the ante every time I get anywhere, which, is probably true. But anyway, thanks for listening.
Hey, just to put in here for a moment, this is something you'd have to talk to Sheila Krinsky to get the actual facts on this, but this is as I remember it. She was teaching. She's one of the partners of Sherry R. Press, but she was teaching in New York City, And teaching in New York City is just insane and crazy to try to get the attention and everything. And she was having the most difficult time with these students, just even trying to keep some kind of, some kind of semblance of order in the room. And she was just going crazy with it, and having to try to hold her temper and everything like that. And in the middle of this, she gets a cable from Baba saying how pleased she is with her work. And oh boy, she probably felt just like you. I can't do this. This is terrible. But Baba said, of all things, pleased with her work for him. Anyway, you have to get that from her directly, though. That's as I remember it.
I want a cable from him right now.
Yeah.
Saying that.
Let's start a campaign to get Robin a cable. And Ruth?
Hi, Jay Pava. I just wanted to share this. I've shared this before, but a couple of years back, I was in the hospital and I was having a GI bleed. And I was in for like 8 days, and every day, one day it would come up a little, and then the nurse would come in the next day and say, no, it's dropped lower. So I had this very low hemoglobin for day after day after day. And I was getting blood transfusions. And so it became, I became desperate. I became really despondent and desperate inside myself in a very sad, lonely, desolate way. And it must have been maybe the 6th morning or 7th morning, I don't know, but it was before the sun came up, and I woke up and I was just in the midst of this desolation. And I picked up this book and I opened it up, and in it, it said to me that Meher Baba feels everything I feel. And so I realized that I wasn't really alone in that desperation and that desolation anymore. And it sounds corny, but that's what happened. The transformation occurred, the sun came up, my spirits rose, and it hardly mattered from that point on where my hemoglobin was. It was all right. I felt not alone in what I was experiencing. And I do value that insight. And I do value the inner strength that I got from that experience of day after day going through that. And then I value the despair, and I value the elation of knowing I wasn't alone, and being able then to greet the people in my day from that place of elation and trust in the beloved. So yeah, I think all these things bring us there. And for me, it's the deeper things. It's usually that deep grief, and it takes me into the deepest place in myself, and it does hollow me out. It takes stuff out. Sometimes I don't know what's going. It just takes stuff out. And then I have room for something new to come in, kind of like the guest house. So I'm grateful for, whatever experiences he's bringing me, because they all hollow me out for more of his grace and love. So yeah, it's an effort. It's not for me. No, it's, I'm in a 12-step program, and I know he's going to take whatever he takes as far as my shortcomings, but I have to look at them. I have to look at myself honestly. I have to be open, honest, and willing for him to do the work. And then, I can let go. Thanks.
Wow. Beautiful, Ruth. Wow. Perfect example. And if somebody at the end, if somebody can find the Rumi's The Guest House, it might be nice to read at the very end.
I heard Robin saying you know, the frustration about trying not to lose your temper. And the thought just came to me, that story about the snake, about the perfect master, and about you can hiss. Does anybody know that story? Do I have to repeat it? Not to repeat it, but to tell it. Should I, or mention it? But would someone be able to say that? Or
Tell the story.
well, it's just that there was someone going through the weeds, and there was a snake, and it bit this person. So I'm not telling the story exactly, but he would get frustrated because the master had said to be kind to all beings, something like this. Oh no, it wasn't the snake going through and getting bitten by something else. Okay, no, the villagers were beating it. I'm beating up the story too, but so the snake goes through once, gets beat by the villagers, goes through twice, gets beat by the villagers. Then the third time he gets beat by the villagers, and he goes back to the master and says, they're beating me. So the master said, I told you not to bite them. I didn't tell you not to hiss. So the story is, and this helped me a lot, because I always had a sort of, you know, a be nice personality and turn the other cheek, and I turn the other cheek and I get swatted on that one and turn it again and get swatted. When I started to learn to like hiss a little bit, otherwise the people that was sort of looking for someone to swat around, they go, oh no, I'm not going to go near him. So I don't know, if I almost took away my hand up because I wasn't sure if this would help Robin or if maybe help any.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here I am, and I sort of told the story. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that what the Maudley referred to as mock anger. It's sometimes more effective than actual anger. Yeah.
Hey, Baba. So I just love that story that of Erich, what he said to you, Jeff. And it made me feel instantly like, oh, yes, it's an inside job. It starts inside. That, you know, I often reach for Baba. He's infinite. He's beyond. He's great. He's grand. But no, he's in me. He's in those feelings. And it made me also think of how like it's a tide rising, and that he's within me. And as I allow him there, he pushes up the negativity out and brings his ocean of love in, but it's all inside me. So that image came to me. And that bit, Ruth, that you said about being hollowed out, and you know, I think it happens to all of us. It certainly happened to me when I'm unconscious of it, that I go through all kinds of grief and pain, and then somehow it disappears, and something different, kind of a new day, and I'm happy, you know. But what if I did it more consciously? I think that's what Darwin is saying. I think it would go quicker. I think it would go smoother, with less pain, and more bliss, more joy. To be really conscious of something gives you the chance to feel the joy of it more. So thanks.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. And Hugh.
In this section, Darwin has some really good advice on in terms of knowing what to do. He says, we can read our own experiences. We make choices as to what we will think, say, and do. And our insight gained from the good or bad consequences of those choices guides us. I think that to me, that's incredible advice.
Yeah, you know, what Darwin calls the inner barometer, Erich used to call that gadget inside. But it's kind of moving through life with your heart and not your mind, feeling your way through and see how you feel about things, and whether it's going to be uplifting or remind you of Baba, or whether it drops you back into your sanskaras, so to speak. So, but you're leading with your heart. that inner barometer is letting you know what whether something is good for you, or whether it's uplifting, or whether it's pulling you down. Yeah.
And Stuart?
Yeah, this is some wonderful discussion. And from a little different angle, I was at Marizod one day in 1977, and a young American woman was pestering Oliver to do what I thought was like an outrageously inappropriate favor for her. And he didn't want to do it. And he told her, and she just kept pestering him. And finally, he just kind of turned away from her. And then she followed him, just screaming at him. And I finally just had to say something to her. I pulled her aside and I said, I'm sorry, I just have to say this. That was really over the line. And she very quietly said to me, I had just asked Barbara for help with my anger. And I thought, whoa, that's a revelation that, in fact, he stimulated it, or brought up a situation that really stimulated it.
The guest house. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if their crowd is sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Rumi.
Yeah, Marcia, read it again.
Okay.
Could Jeff, before she does, can I read the second half of the poem, because it's often forgotten on these things?
Oh, there's a second half?
There's more to it. Yeah, it goes like this, and then Marcia, you could read the beginning again, and I could read the second part.
Oh, okay.
It says, welcome difficulty. Learn the alchemy true human beings know. The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door opens. Welcome difficulty as a familiar comrade. Joke with torment brought by the friend, capital friend. Sorrows are the rags and jackets that serve to cover, and then are taken off. That undressing and the beautiful naked body underneath is the sweetness that comes after grief.
Wow.
Wow, beautiful.
You read that again?
Well, you go Marcia, first. You read the first part, and then she'll continue the second part.
Okay. The guest house. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each guest has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Welcome difficulty. Learn the alchemy true human beings know. The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door opens. Welcome difficulty as a familiar comrade. Joke with torment brought by the friend. Sorrows are the rags and jackets that serve to cover, and then are taken off. That undressing and the beautiful naked body underneath is the sweetness that comes after grief.
Ooh, wow. Written from the top down, folks.
Why isn't that second part of the poem normally? That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's only, the illustrated Rumi has the whole that, but when you go online, you can only get that first part. But I pulled up the illuminated Rumi, And that's how I got the whole thing.
Yeah, beautiful.
I took a photo of this in the guest house, and this was posted in the kitchen. So that's how I got that. I don't know if
We
you're
used,
supposed to
we used to
tell
have
that.
a copy of that on the refrigerator of the guest house.
Yeah, that's where I got it from.
On the center.
Yeah.
I have a question about the section before the inner parameter. What about, Darwin talks about our individual work within ourselves, which is great. I mean, there's a lot of hints and guidance. My question is about, what about our communication with others, particularly our closed ones, or even friends among, Baba community. When you come across a friend that they tend to stick with their own ideas and, the learned behaviors, or in my opinion, colored reality and so forth. And, you begin to communicate even from your inner level. But it seems at some level that it really doesn't go through. It just, oftentimes in several episodes I have tried and I have hit the wall. It gets to the point where I feel like I'm really wasting my time and perhaps his or her time. And so, and then at the same time, Baba talks about real happiness lies in making others happy. So as far as my individual sanskaras goes, I love to share what I learned from with others. That's just in me. I love to go post. I love to, share it here, there, text it to a friend or whatnot. But, oftentimes, whatever that I've done later on disappoints me because I just don't know how to create a channel where we can have some basis and then communicate in that level. I see some people have a tendency to stick with their inertia. Baba talks about it in discourses. And so whatever that, Darwin talks here, it just doesn't apply to them. And, out of my concern or my caring, I like to share it with them, but I just don't know how to because it's not going anywhere. So maybe somebody, if it is a time now or later on, could share their experiences, how they have overcome this, to just, at least create a channel where things are being communicated as it's intended to be. Because, it's not fun to people make you wrong, and do a fault finding and say, oh, you this, you that, So you give up, okay, I'm sorry, bye, like that. So I just thought, how do we communicate with others? I mean, we can't keep it all to ourselves, we're all interconnected. Baba says we're all one global family, one soul, part of the oversoul. So I have some difficulty with that. So just thought I'd share that.
Yeah. Well, that's a big topic. And maybe after we have some silence, I mean, the thought that comes to me, welcome to the Baba world. No, I mean, it's
yes,
you want to go. I mean, I kind of like to go for the give and take of love. And if it's not happening with this one, it might be happen with that one. But I got a great, I got to find this quote for you. I think you'll get a kick out of it. But so anybody else want to respond to that? I'm just going to get this one book.
I'll say something. I don't know if I read it in a Baba thing, or I think it's Baba, or maybe it was in How a Master Works. Maybe Ivy Deuce wrote it, but like everyone is evolving. The fact that we can't see it is our ignorance. You know, like everyone is moving forward. And so that quote that don't waste your precious lifespan judging and differentiating your fellow man, but learn to love for the long for the love of God. I think it's so tricky, especially when you're in spiritual circles, for the archetype of the judge to keep us out of that bliss, and to not even to enjoy the fact that Bob is working out personality issues with the greater, I think, through us, even though we're not supposed to get attached to that. And so it would be even more difficult, I think, at that level. And I have been trying to bait and switch with the desire to judge my fellow man, and rather than look within, what part of me needs to measure and evaluate this right now? Like, and it's got to be part of my ego. My infinite soul doesn't want to do that. My infinite soul just wants to merge with God and radiate that for all.
Angela?
So
I
anyhow,
don't know if
that's
I'm
what
going
I'll
to
respond.
find it. But well, I'll just convey it as I remember it. So Erich was with Craig. It was Rustam Falahati, Erich, and Craig Ruff. And Craig Ruff asked Erich, what are the inner qualities of a Baba lover? And Rustam breaks in and says, I know. If there's a person and you can't get along with them, and you can't ever, they're unreasonable and very difficult to get to deal with, that's the Baba lover. and Erich and Craig had a great laugh over that. I wish I could, the wording, but it was great. I know there's just a lot that comes up, and you wish you could connect. And, you know, there are a lot of, especially around the Baba centers and everything. Yeah. I mean, Bao Kalchuri used to say being around the Mandali, they said it was like, they would just like tear off your skin off of your bone, the Mandali with each other. They were so hard on each other, but yet they had that conviction that they were unified in their service to Baba. But it can get difficult. You know, I mean, it's not that it's something wrong ultimately, but I'll tell you, I'll just give you a story here. This is the last thing Erich ever said to me. I used to go to India, and I would get together with Craig Ruff, and we would get together at some point, and I would give him the problems and difficulties and the disharmonies at the center in Myrtle Beach. And he lived in the trust compound, and he would tell me all of the difficulties that were going on there with personalities, and there were old Baba lovers, and there were Westerners, and then the Mandali and everything. So we would get together. And I was always disturbed for years, you know, because Bob was asking for harmony, and I didn't feel that there was the proper harmony at the center, and many of the caretakers felt the same thing. So we were sitting there doing our usual yearly kind of exchanging, comparing notes. And just outside the trust office on a little table there, and Erich comes out. There's a call, so he's going to walk down the veranda. And he comes by and he looks down at us and he says, "What are you two doing?" as if we're a couple of conspirators. And Craig says, oh, Jeff's telling me about the problems at the center. And Erich looks down at me and he says, Jeff, are you still having problems? And I got it. And what he really said, I knew exactly what he was saying. It came from Baba through Erich into my lap. And that's the last thing that Erich ever said to me. But what he was saying, I got it. He said, are you still having a problem with problems? That was there shouldn't be problems. There are always going to be problems. And there are also going to be kind of harmonious times. But I had a problem with problems. And that was the last thing that he ever said to me. And it was invaluable. I've never had a problem with all the problems that we have at the center and different places. And I just try to tackle them as they come along. I don't know if that helps you at Mahu, but don't have a problem with those problems. That's kind of what Erich was saying to me. Tackle them, and if you succeed, fine. But and there'll be some harmonious times as well.
No, I just a quick note, totally. And I know deep inside these are the episode or something that Baba has created, perhaps within unfolding of my sanskaras, to learn something from it and expand my consciousness and learn more. So then what Darwin talks about it, because next time that it comes around, I feel more numbness in me. It really doesn't impact me as before. And when it comes the third time, there has been, an episode where I become indifferent about it. So I actually take it in a good note that, Baba being in charge, he's the doctor, so he knows how to work with one's sanskars, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
I have to slip out for a moment. My power cord is not working. It's not my computer, but my power cord.
Okay.
What a night.
What a night. We're going to have a moment of silence anyway.
Did what Mahu said brought up, and did anybody respond?
Yeah, I just got reminded of a story by Pendu. I'm sure most of you heard, but Baba asked Pendu to clean a room for the dispensary when he was setting up this dispensary. I think this was in the 20s. And, Pendu cleaned the room once, and he thought he did a pretty good job. And Baba came and he found some fault with it where there was some dust or something. And then the next day, Pendu did that again. And this kept on going, where Baba kept finding fault with whatever Pendu did in the cleaning every day. So finally, Pendu one day really got up early and he started cleaning every nook and corner, and he was very proud that he did a spectacular job of cleaning everything in the room. And then he was waiting for Baba to come to show how great of a job he did. And then Baba came and he stood near the door and he put the hand on the door top, and then he wiped the door top like this, and then he showed the dust on his finger. And he really took Pendu to task, saying, are you trying to kill my patients, and so on. Pendu so angry and so frustrated that he just packed his clothes and he started walking from Mehrabad on the road. And I think I hope I'm remembering the story correctly, but Baba followed Pendu and finally slapped him, caught him and slapped him. And then nothing was ever said about that, anything, after that. But I remember that story so well because Baba didn't do that just for Pendu. He's doing it with every one of us, except that the only difference being that he's not physically here. So he can't physically do that with us. So he uses everyone that's in our life. And
Exactly.
especially our brothers or sisters or spouses, parents, close friends. Those are the ones that he uses to do the same thing that he did with Pendu.
Excellent.
That's my take.
Yeah, no, excellent. Yeah, we think that these people are acting independent of Baba. No, that's how Baba gets. If we were actually with Baba, it would be even worse than the way we're treated by our fellow beings. I mean, difficult and fault finding and everything.
Yeah.
People do a good job of getting to us, But that line, Mayor Prasad, that that great line from Baba about don't
be brought down by what I bring up in you.
Yeah, don't be brought down by what I bring up in you.
What I like about that story is that he slaps him. So it's like he slapped off the sanskaras, or he slapped off the anger. So, I think that's really powerful.
Here's one thing you might not hear. Back in the early 70s, we were with Adi and we said, what is this that Baba would actually hit people? You were there and they would knock you down some stairs and everything. What was going on there? Because it was kind of disturbing to us. But Adi surprised us by saying when Bob was in that mood, we made sure we were around him. We'd even kind of puff our chests forward so that we would get in the line of fire, because when he would hit you, you would feel so cleansed and so purified that you might have gotten hurt physically, but what it was doing internally, he was just clearing you out of that anger was in you, and that he was mirroring and acting out. So we were surprised. So like I say, they would the early, those young men and young kids really would kind of, when Bob would be in a particular mood, they kind of close in around him to make sure that he hit them. I mean, our anger isn't that like that, but his was like that.
I wish my friend Stephanie was still alive, because when she heard that he hit his disciples, she completely closed the door, possibly the door on Baba for years after that, and now she died. But yeah, I never heard it said that way. That's really great.
Yeah. Well, that was a great relief to us because we didn't quite know what to do with that kind of behavior. Yeah.
I just want to say, keeping on the same old thing that I was talking about, I have felt for, I hate to say how long, like years, that if I could just totally accept the situation, that does get worse, but if I could just accept it, it would get resolved, or not, but I would accept it and it would be okay. And I can't. I just haven't been able to do it yet. I mean, I accept it a lot more than I used to, and how important is it? Some of the things, that happen that used to horrify me, like it's like, oh, well, that's what's happening. And I know it's all for Baba to teach me or wake me up. But I get so bogged down in it still, too. So.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Have you ever just stated out loud what it is that's bothering you to the person? And then, no. And the reason I'm saying this is, if you were to do that, well, the word self-effacement came up. Sometimes when you admit to them what's bugging you, you actually end up making yourself so vulnerable. And it's, but then of course the results are left to Baba. Anyway, it just came up in my mind, so I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, thank you. And I have actually made it very clear, sometimes a
Yeah.
little clear, because it's been hurtful too to him, and he can't help it. It's basically what's going on. So where's my judgment coming from? It's all an inner thing, I get all of that. But some of it's pretty hard to deal with. It's just not something I ever thought I'd have to face. And I know people go through a lot worse and all that kind of stuff, but I know that everything that Baba does is for the good. I really do know that. And I can thank him for it in between reacting and falling off the whatever, so it's a game, but sometimes I can laugh at it, but sometimes I can't.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Stu? You guys, if anybody want to stay for a heart-centered meditation, it's short but powerful.
Okay, you ready? Okay, Jai Baba. Just ask that everybody please mute. And just sit back and relax into wherever you're sitting or laying. And start breathing in gently but deeply into your belly. And we'll keep up this breathing throughout. And now bring your attention to your heart space. And breathe in as you settle into your heart and your awareness of your heart and your heart space. This is the endless well within you, within all of us, of Meher Baba's infinite love that he makes available to us for all time. And keep breathing in as you let yourself sink into your heart. And take note of whatever you might see or feel. And now pick somebody who you would like to share, focus on sharing Baba's infinite love with. And just let your heart guide you with whoever comes up. It could be one person, it could be a group. And this process of sharing love with your heart can be incredibly powerful and surprising in the event of conflict. But it can be done just because you'd like to share more love with somebody. Maybe there's somebody you know is struggling. And just let your heart bring somebody up for you. And picture them, get a good image of them. And breathe into that image you have. And now picture their heart and their heart center. And keep breathing in as you notice whatever you might see and feel. And now start to picture Mir Baba's infinite love, an infinitely generous love, just flowing without end into their heart and their heart center, and filling every bit. And this is a healing, soothing, giving, enlightening, forgiving love. And it flows without end. And I see this wonderful, warm, liquid golden light continually flowing in, filling every bit of their heart. And overflowing. And now flowing through their heart. And just flowing continually without end. And we never know what magic this love might bring. And keep seeing the love flow into and through and overflow from their heart space, filling every bit of their being. And let's stay here another moment with the gift of Baba's infinite love. And now let's give thanks for being able to focus on sharing this boundless gift of love. And know that you can return here again and again. And let's bid farewell for now to whoever you've chosen. And gently bring your attention back to your own heart and heart center. And breathe in as you notice whatever you might see and feel there now. And now let's start to see Meher Baba's infinite love flowing into your heart. And your heart center. And deliciously and generously filling every bit of your heart, every little corner. And it's healing and cleaning, soothing, enlightening and forgiving. Without end. It's a divine gift that just keeps coming. And see Baba's infinite love now overflowing from your heart and your heart center and flowing through continuously. And now just filling every bit of your being. With all its magical wonder. And now let's give thanks for the incredible gift of Mayor Baba's infinite love and being able to focus on it. And know that you can come back here again and again in your own heart. And gently start to bring your attention back to wherever you're sitting or laying. And take a few moments to slowly come back. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And if anybody would like to share anything, we would love to have you.
Well, you know me, I'm always ready to share, almost always. Always spoke first in Catholic school too, sat in the front of the class. I am just feeling so grateful for, Baba told me once, walking to Amartithi from my cabin 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, recently. And he said, I've broken your heart so thoroughly because it needed to expand to be able to hold me in it or to feel my love.
Yeah.
And so when I feel heartbroken, which I do at times, like I'm like, okay, there's more space. And when I feel heartbroken, I feel the tightness of the boundaries of my own finite human love. And when I feel like what I felt tonight and I'm feeling right now, it is boundless. There is no boundary of my heart center. It's infinite, it's light, it's not broken, it's accepting of the oneness and everyone and everything. There's nothing. What I thought was heartbreaking in this moment is just the lightest acceptance of love everywhere and love in everything. And I'm very much I'm enjoying it, but I'm not going to get attached to it. I don't want my ego to get attached to it, because the heartbreak feeling is as necessary as the heartful feeling. And I remember Jeff telling me once, Darwin, go for ordinary happiness. You can't get knocked off ordinary happiness.
Yeah.
So I feel lovely, ordinary happiness right now. So thank you all.
Oh, that's lovely, Cindy, lovely. And a second before, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, but Khalil Gibran said that pain, sorrow hollows out our hearts to feel more love, to hold more love.
There's a beautiful prayer of Mother Teresa where she would say, Lord, break my heart so completely that the whole world falls in. Boy, beautiful.
Yeah, can't beat that.
I had some interesting images that are different from before and a very different experience. So I was thinking of a friend who's a very big lover of God. And anyway, this time the ocean, which is, I usually follow that pattern of the gold ocean, and the ocean's usually out there, Baba, the ocean, and then it comes in waves. And this time the ocean went inside this person's heart, and it was the ocean in the heart of this person, which I'd never really, that had never happened before. And then of course it was spilling over to the rest of the person and through all aspects. And then when it was brought back to me, it changed colors, which is this has never happened before. It changed to an orange. I mean, a gorgeous orange, like sunburst orange or coral orange or lily orange, or I don't know, just one of those brilliant orange colors. Probably sunset or sunrise orange, one of those brilliant. Anyway, and inside my heart, it was bubbling like bubbles. And I was trying to think, now what is this? And first I thought it was just cleansing and purifying and happy. But then what it really was, this was joy bubbles. And then of course it went everywhere. I don't know why I was thinking of that. It just is what came to me. And it will be interesting to see what happens. Anyway, I just also want to say thank you to Cindy, because I always love her comments, whatever they are. They're always so insightful, and I just appreciate them each time she shares them. Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Jai
Baba.
Baba.
Elizabeth. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I was going to say, I don't see Marinaz now. She was here a moment ago. I was going to say that the state that this puts me in must be the state that her father, who was one of the Prem Ashram boys, must have been in all the time. I mean, they all had a certain look and a reverence. They must have been cultivating this all the time
Hmm.
and not much concern about the external.
Jeff, I read the book The Boys about the Prem Ashram, and then I was so taken with it, I keep rereading it and studying it, and especially the inner experiences of the three boys and how um, as Fundiyar and Darwin would talk about doing the inner work inside, and as Fundiyar would always want to be connecting in his dell, in that deep place. And, and Chota Baba, Aga Ali, just where they went to in those inner states that were matchless. And, I was reading again about Chota Baba today, and, Baba had given him 3 orders to follow when he went back home, and he wasn't able to follow any one of them, and he lost the whole experience of the 6th plane and the bliss. But he lived a beautiful life, and I just read again today where he said that Baba gave him total honesty, and that's what he lived by, and that I hadn't caught that before. But I was thinking what a remarkable thing that is, and that to me that encourages really living in this deep inner place.
Yeah. It's almost like embodying one of the divine qualities.
Yeah.
So perfectly, and the shaft of light is coming right there all the time, coming into the heart. Yeah, beautiful.
What were some of those inner experiences that were so profound, Stu, if it's okay to share that? I don't know if this is the time, but
The Prem Ashram boys?
yes, uh-huh.
Well, I can't be sure, but they were taken to incredible places of bliss. And so Chota Baba, for example, he was taken to the highest state of the 3 boys, I think. Baba said he was on the 6th plane, and then he later divulged like a lot of teaching from that place after he was back in the world. He wrote about that, but he wrote and he spoke from this place of real spiritual authority that he could see, the truth of what he was saying. And it was like Darwin talking about being able to see the narrow road to walk and being careful to avoid getting off the road, and the more that I think the more that inner consciousness is expanded, the more clearly you can see that. And I think probably the more painful if you veer off that road a bit too. Yeah, but they were.
Why your computer was dark.
But they were taken to places that the world did not mean anything, just did not mean anything. Yeah. Jeff, anything else to contribute to that?
I had to answer a call of nature.
Oh.
You mean about their inner states?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could feel the reverence that they had in their heart. The reverence they had for Baba was just kind of oozing out of them. You could really, and it was even had a very refined sacredness to it, as you kind of experience with Esfandiar. What a yeah, what an internally harmonized state. Just beautiful.
Yeah, and you know, Esfandiar's children and Chota Baba's children were interviewed about their fathers, and there was a common theme of what loving, gentle, um, inspired people they were, and how just their presence carried this, I was going to say like a force of God, but a quiet, gentle.
Yeah, very soft interior.
Yeah. And one of Chota Baba's daughters said that people would criticize her father, saying he was too laid back in the world. He didn't try to grab life by the throat. And she said, the man's a saint. He doesn't need any of that.
Yeah.
Which was literally true, you know.
You know, just moments ago, I mean, Marinaz was here with us. You know, her father was one of the Prem Ashram
Yeah.
boys. It would have been nice to get a little bit of her feedback. Sometimes she shared with us what her father was like.
Yeah, I saw she just left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be raised by a father like that. I mean, wow, how could they? I'm wondering how they even raise children, because their perspective would be so different. I just can't imagine.
But they really felt that. I mean, Marinaz really felt that love from her father.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't taking her to swimming lessons and ballet, you know what I mean? He was there. And that being in that presence was very fulfilling and enriching.
Yeah, and you know, the two of the three boys we have documented about their families, all the children who said something said that they carried this incredible presence with them, and they didn't have to say anything. It was just who they were, you know. And Darwin had that also, even if he didn't say anything. And how forgiving they were as fathers, and so Chota Baba's, Abdullah Pakravan, his second wife, his first one died, but she was a very assertive, kind of forceful, incredibly accomplished woman. But she said she was afraid that he'd be too soft on the children. and they adored him, and she knew it. They just adored him. And she said it was almost like we reversed our roles. You know, he was the soft, nurturing one, but not just a pushover either, but both those men just incredibly generous too, as adults, generous with their time, giving to others, helping others, mentoring people. So that stayed with them even in their lives in the world.
Did any of the Prem Ashram boys continue to be with Baba? They probably did. I just can't remember because I didn't really study that much.
Well, all the ones that we know stayed with Baba.
Oh.
Yeah.
But did they become part of the Mandali eventually, or did they go do other work? Like, whatever their trade was.
Many of them were from Iran.
Oh.
So they all went back.
But Ali Akbar, he became Mandali.
Right.
He was the one who, was with Baba to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew Alaba.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was one of the Prema.
Yeah. He was. He was, and there were times that he was quite mischievous and
he was wild. I remember when I met him, and of course I wasn't very much into Baba. I mean, I just recently come to, and I thought he was just kind of crazy. I thought, who is this character?
Yeah, and he lift up his shirt and show his tattoo of Baba on his chest.
He didn't do that with me.
Yeah.
I would have probably been appalled.
This multicolored tattoo of Baba on his chest.
Hey, Stu, I'm going to get a bite to eat.
Okay.
But thank you. Like this, a wonderful experience. And
I'm so glad to have you, Jeff.
Yeah, all
Good
the
night,
clouds.
everyone. Jay Baba.
Yeah,
See you guys.
Baba.
See you next week, or maybe tonight if anybody stays on. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, Baba. We
love.
miss you when you're not there, Stu. Here, Jay Bob, everybody.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Hey, Baba. Yeah, I'm gonna go eat myself. So
don't eat yourself.
I knew I misworded that.
Thank you, both of you. It was wonderful again, as always.
Yeah.
I can't sit still. I'm listening, I'm paying attention, I'm appreciating, but I'm moving around.
Yeah.
But thank you. It's so nourishing.
Glad to have you.
Good.
Glad to
Much
have you.
love, Elizabeth. Great to see you.
Jay Barbara.
And Marie Rhodes. But I'm going to go eat now.
Yeah.
Lanita.
Okay, Jeff.